Hello, it's Gabrielle here from the Menopause Running Club. So this is for anyone who wants to know a little bit more about coaching and how it works when we work together on a one-to-one basis. So the type of women that I tend to work with, or the clients that I have, well, the biggest thing is that running is really important to them. It really is a big part of their lives. It's a big part of who they are, and they don't want to stop. But they've been struggling, for one reason or another. And, the struggles tend to be a combination between, straight off menopause symptoms and how that affects us, but also midlife, because midlife can really throw some real curveballs. So, the people tend to start to notice there's changes in their running, for example. It might be that they're recognizing that it just feels harder, the pace is slower, their legs are heavy, they're just not recovering in the same way. They can't run as long, they can feel more breathless, that can be quite a common thing, or the energy's just not there. A lot of people suffer with niggles now, that's a big thing. And those niggles can either be just something going on in the back of your mind that's not right, but you don't know what to do about it. Other people just feel like they spend a fortune with the physio because there's just one thing after another that's cropping up and really starting to interfere with their ability to train consistently, and they're having to take big chunks of time out when they're not running. Other people are just finding that they're losing their motivation and not enjoying it anymore, and that's quite often because it just feels hard. We used to just be able to put our trainers on, run out the door, be in a great mood, enjoy it, and now we're actually more focused on how tough it feels and how much despite the effort we're putting in, we're getting worse. That's where your motivation goes. That's why running stops being fun, if you're feeling like you just can't keep up and you're really getting behind. And, other people just find that they get stuck into midlife throws a few curveballs. There can be things that can happen now that mean that we don't have time, we don't have energy, we don't have the headspace more than anything to actually get out on a regular enough basis. And we can find that we want to run, but when it comes down to it, we can maybe go out on a Monday, but then by the rest of the week we're just in bits and we just can't do the training that we need to do. And people spend a lot of time, a lot of physical energy, a lot of mental energy, a lot of money on trying different things, on feeling like they're doing all the right things, but it's just not coming together and making a difference. So they're the people I work with. That's the experience that they've had. And getting to a point where they just realise maybe they've run out of options and they want to know what they need now. I understand how we're changing, understand how they've changed and how menopause is changing them, and then know what they need to do now to get things going again, to get things moving in the right direction. And that's key, because there's two things that every client has. One, they have this passion about running and the body might be letting them down, but the mind, the person who they really are, is not ready to let go of the idea that they can run and they can keep running and enjoying it again. But also they're ready to change. They know accept that what they've been doing hasn't been right, and they know they need to maybe go back to the drawing board and get a new program, a new way of doing things. What happens then is we have that conversation. That's really important, because I need to hear from them. I need to understand, what their goals are, what they're struggling with. We're all different, what's right for one person might be completely different for another person. And I'll dig in a little bit more to what their current training routine looks like, what their current diet looks like. And that, when I talk about diet, I talk about what they eat generally, and also how they eat around running. So there's two components to how we look at diet. I'll also have we'll also talk a little bit more about their lifestyle, what sort of level of stress they're under, what menopause symptoms they're experiencing, how well they sleep, how much time they've got, what other commitments they have. And this is really important, because we have to start with where we are now. We can't just literally throw everything out if you've got a crazy life and just put this insane schedule in. That's really not going to work. So it's really understanding, working together to say, okay, this is, I'll take all that information and build out, or communicate to them what a program would look like for them and the things I'm going to change. Make sure they're happy with it and they buy into it and they know they can do it. That's key, because that has to be our starting point. These are the changes I'm happy to make. These are the changes I can make, and I'm ready to do them. Okay, so that's how we then get started, and we work together really closely over the next 4 months, and I keep them accountable first of all, but I also help them adjust things if they need it. We'll track milestones and progress together. You know, we'll have lots of chats about how things are going. So for example, you know, a lot of clients will catch up after they've had a big run, if they're training for a big distance, and we'll talk about how they found it, you know, what went well, what maybe do they need to improve on next time. Sometimes we just share in progress, you know, faster times each week, and people just being so happy that they can put the mileage up week in, week out, and actually they recover well and they're having great runs. Other times someone might say, well, I went for my run and I just really struggled, and we'll then sort of say, okay, let's have a look at what's gone on. And quite often we might find there's usually a reason, you know, I wasn't as well hydrated as I normally was, I forgot my hydration tabs, or I ate differently on that run. So then we have a plan for the next long run to know what to sort of get in place beforehand so that it works really well, okay? And so that's how we work. We'll have those catch-ups and we'll keep a track of progress and keep adjusting and tweaking things over that time. And we progress their plan over, you know, we progress the plans over time. So where you start isn't necessarily where you end up, you know. For a common thing that might happen is people might start and they're not a member of a gym because they want to work out at home, but then they want to join a gym. They get motivated to do that, that happens. And so we'll change the program so that it's based around the gym, you know. Have another client who's just getting close to finishing her marathon training, and then she wants to switch her focus to speed and power, and she's in her early 60s, and that's really exciting. So, you know, now that the marathon, but once the marathon's over, which was a couple of weeks away, then she's going to have a little bit of a break and then work on something completely different. So we structure and we change that program to be more about speed and power and a lot less volume. What you start with isn't what you end up with. We keep working together and making progress, because that's important. If we want to get better at anything, we have to start to make changes to begin with and then building on those changes over time. And we have a very specific plan. So at the end of our time together, which is typically working together for 4 months, although some people stay for longer, but 4 months is a time where you can achieve so much. And by the end of that, you'll have a much deeper understanding of your body and what it takes to keep running strong. And that's really nice, because that gives you control back, and that's really exciting. You'll also have a training plan that you know works for you and that you can keep going with. You know, we'll have made some big changes to how you've trained before, and then you'll be seeing how they work, and you'll have the confidence to know it works, and you'll be motivated to carry on. You'll also have a nutrition strategy by the end of that 4 months. You'll know what works for you. You'll know what gives you energy. You'll know what supports your runs. You'll know what helps you with recovery, and you'll know how to get that balance right between eating well to fuel your body and your run, and then eating to just enjoy eating, because you can do both. And then, you know, the biggest thing, I think, that the shift that people get to by the end of that 4 months is the mindset change, you know, feeling back in control of your body. And that's a lovely thing. What happens when you've done all these things is it brings back your enjoyment and it brings back your motivation. And that's just the start of a really exciting next chapter, because I want you to end up with the knowledge, the tools, the strategies to help you hit your new goals and have the confidence and self-belief that you can do it. And that's what it's all about, you know, knowing that this is just the first step. You learn how to get that right, and then you're off. You just can go off and achieve anything that you want to, and you'll know how to do it. So if that sounds like something that you're looking for, what would the next step be? Well, the next step is to book a chat with me. So we just get to know each other a little bit, talk through your specific goals, your specific issues, and I'll give you an idea of what that plan would look like for you. And then also a little bit more of the detail about how it works, you know. And then if you're happy with everything and you feel like us working together is the right thing for you, then we just get cracking. And that's how simple it is. So if you want to book that call, then I'll put a link in below that shows you tells you how to get there, and hopefully I'll look forward to seeing you, not like this, but us having a chat face to face in real life. All right, see you soon.